Baphomet, one of the most infamous deities of all times. Even if you don't really know the name, you've definitely seen the image. They're the face of Satanism in pop culture. With a history of torture, evil accusations, and being a subject of interest of some of the most influential occultists of all time, there's just so much misinformation surrounding Baphomet. It's hard to find any good information about who they actually are, what they represent, and how to work with them. Today I'll be dissecting all of that, breaking it all down, and looking in depth at one of the most misunderstood deities of all time, Baphomet. Let's get started. Love and light, death and darkness, I'm Jordan from Grimwire, and today we'll be looking at a special sort of deity. Baphomet is one of the best examples of what I call a living deity. And what I mean by that is, even though we can trace back a name in this case, no culture has ever been documented actually working with this deity. Instead, the energy and form has constantly been changed and morphed. Yet for some reason or another, it persisted strongly, reappearing at several times, ranging from the year 1000 all the way to modern times. On top of that, Baphomet is popularized by three of the most famous occultists of all time, each with a slightly different interpretation, never having a solid or set group that set the energy and rituals. So let's very quickly go over the history of this mysterious and influential figure and figure out what dots we can connect when working with this powerful energy. It seems by most accounts that scholars believe Baphomet came from the word Muhammad, the Islamic prophet, which is pronounced Mahomet in French, and then switch out the B. There seems to be a few historical records, starting in poems in the year 1000, but then in the 1300s, that's when we really start to see a few mentions of the names during the torturing of the Knights Templars order. They were essentially a powerful Christian-based order that was accused of heresy, homosexuality, and a few other things, and the name Baphomet kept popping up. There is near no agreement on a form, and not all Templars admitted to it. As with most torture, especially from so long ago, we don't know what was real, what was fabricated from those being tortured, and what was inaccurately summarized by the torturers. For the most part, Baphomet went under the radar until about 1850, when a famous occultist, Levi, drew the image that most of us know today. He included a picture of a deity he called Baphomet, which he drew as a symbol for the absolute, the source, the all, and its dual nature of male and female, creation and destruction, up and down. This is what he had to say about it.
The goat carries the sign of the pentagram on the forehead, with one point at the top, a symbol of light. His two hands forming the sign of occultism, one pointing up to the white moon of mercy and charity, the other pointing down to the black one of strength and honesty. This sign expresses the perfect harmony of mercy and forgiveness with justice. The flame shining between his horns is the magic light of universal balance. Like the soul which is connected to the body, yet elevated above it, the flame, whilst being tied to the matter below, shines above it. The rod which takes place of the genitals symbolizes eternal life. The body covered with scales represents water. The semicircle above it represents the atmosphere, air, and the feathers and wings are emblems of flying. Lastly, humanity is then represented by the two breasts and the androgyne arms. The adorers of Baphomet do not consider that this is a representation of the devil. On the contrary, for them it is that of the god Pan, the god of our modern schools of philosophy, the god of our own mystical Neoplatonists, of Plato, and the god of the primitive Gnostic schools.
For Levi, it seems Baphomet was a complex deity, one who symbolized both the absolute and duality, both humanity and the divine, both mercy and justice. He considered Baphomet the same being that the early Greeks worshipped, including that of the Gnostics, which is an alternative branch of early Christianity. That it was a being of logic and reason, yet of passion and spirituality. After that, Baphomet was picked up by Crowley, who even went as far as to declare Baphomet the divine androgyne, similar to the divine masculine or divine feminine, but in this case, it's the result of combining the divine masculine and the divine feminine together to create a living being. To Crowley, Baphomet represented humanity combining with the divine to create a real, true experience, true freedom and true liberty, saying,
"The devil does not exist. The devil is historically the god of any people that one personally dislikes. His emblem is Baphomet, the androgyne who is the hieroglyph of arcane perfection. He is therefore life and love, but moreover he is light, and his zodiac image is Capricorn, that leaping goat whose attribute is liberty.
Baphomet was then adopted by Anton LaVey, the founder of the first organized type of Satanism around 1966. He combined Baphomet along with an inverted pentagram to create the famous sigil of Baphomet. This type of Satanism, called the Church of Satan, or LaVeyan Satanism, is an atheistic religion that focuses on the human experience, individuality, atheistic ritual, and indulgence of your desires while remaining accountable. Not like worshiping an evil deity at all. They, along with the next group I'll briefly mention, typically don't work with any deities at all, but use Satan as a symbol for free thinking and skepticism, while Baphomet just happens to be the most iconic version of Satan that they use. An altered version of that sigil was then used by the Satanic Temple, a similar but distinct group of Satanists. The aforementioned Church of Satan is more about ritual and magic, while the Satanic Temple is more about philosophy and activism. They're the group you might have heard about a few years ago back in 2014 when they made a giant statue and went to get it placed in front of a courthouse. There was a legal battle, and essentially, even though they didn't get to place it, the court battle did lead to the removal of a display of the Ten Commandments. When that happened, the group did back off with their request. And that's nowhere even near everybody's interpretations of Baphomet. In the witchcraft community, there tends to be a lot of relationship to Baphomet with both Pan and even the horned god of Wicca. So of course, all of this leads to the controversy. In general, because so many popular occultists worked with Baphomet, including being the face of the two most common forms of Satanism, along with the Knights Templar Order and even some rumors with the Freemasons, the deity gets a lot of hate for being evil. But I think, in fact, that's what everybody who works with Baphomet does have in common, that they were being oppressed by a Christian super authority. Whether the Knights Templar, who were tortured for their potential beliefs, or Eliphas Levi, who was kicked out of the church for his beliefs, to Aleister Crowley, who was demonized by the media of his time, to the Satanic Temple, which eventually took the legal route to have to obtain religious equality. Baphomet has been a symbol of the divine for those persecuted and outcast, no matter religion or gender or anything else. Point is, through time, the energy, name, and form of Baphomet has continued to survive, even gathering and growing more momentum to the point where there's more people interested in the energy now than there ever was before. Unlike most traditional deities where the worshippers tend to do the spreading, Baphomet has naturally spread and entered people's practices all around the globe, even without a human following to push it. Now that we understand a bit of the history, we can start to put some of this together and look at a few ways this energy could express itself. If you want to start working with this amazing energy, see which ones of these roles resonate most with you. Breaking down what they all have in common, along with my own personal experiences working with the deity, I'll start with kind of the most traditional, and that's Baphomet as a symbol of the absolute in manifestation, nature and balance, unity and duality. You can see Baphomet as a symbol of the universe, of the absolute, of the all, and how in order for anything to exist, there must be a split, there must be a separation. You can't have light without dark, and there's no life without death. You can see Baphomet as a reminder that everything has its opposite. You can spend time in nature, work on both, giving more to charity, and learning how to indulge yourself. Learn how to stand up for yourself. There's always a balance. Give and take. You can work with traditionally death-oriented things like skulls, as well as bright, lively things like flowers. This is where Baphomet connects with Pan and the Horn God as a natural, primal energy. Start to look at the world around you a little differently. Good is only good because bad exists. If good was the only thing that existed, if there was no break from good, then it wouldn't be good, it would be average. The related symbols here are the flame and the goat, representing the spirit and the primal side, respectively. How every human is exactly that, part God and part nature. Two things that may initially appear different, but they're actually the same, both where they come from and what they actually are, and because they express themselves in you. But one of the things that draws me most to Baphomet isn't just that they're a deity that represents the all or the absolute, it's also because of how friendly and approachable they are. We can look at Baphomet as the protector of individual and solo practitioners, outcasts, witches, hermits, and mystics. Through time, whether consciously or unconsciously, Baphomet has stood for people who are being persecuted by those claiming to do God's work.
So Baphomet isn't just the absolute, but also a guide, one who helps newbies all the way through masters and connects with everyone.
The key symbols for this interpretation are the moon, representing magic, and the goat is Capricorn, representing somebody who has withdrawn high up into the mountains to seek wisdom. So Baphomet is going to be a great go-to for answers, using typical divination techniques and rituals, and by opening the third and sixth eye chakra. Read, and do research. Get in touch with the universal wisdom and your ability to discern which are real good magic goals and which ones are illusory. Set those goals or ask for help in determining what they should be. And because of this kind of general, no matter who you are vibe, the one thing I keep coming back to in both my meditations and as I was writing this is looking at Baphomet as the spirit of humanity. And what I mean by that is, what is humanity? What makes us human? Not just in the grand, bigger than life sense, but also in an everyday sense and a real sense. And I really think Baphomet helps in just about all situations that humans can even care about. Whether it's something earthy like money and wealth, or fiery like sex and passion, or on the airy side, there's wisdom and intelligence. On the watery side, there's magic and intuition. And of course, we can't forget about the spirit element, which is the absolute and your experience with it, or enlightenment. I really think Baphomet is a great inspiration for all forms and realms of human life. From having charisma and being fun, to being real and deep and showing compassion and empathy, or the confidence to go off on your own path. Really, they're just a great all-around deity. Spend time meditating on what makes us humans. What do all humans have in common? What do we actually desire? Whether it's happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, excitement, whatever flavor it is. The notable symbol here is of course the pentagram, representing the microcosm, as well as I think rainbows are a wonderful symbol for Baphomet in this sense. And now let's look at a major attribution that I don't really think is pointed out enough, and that's Baphomet as the Mercury Trickster archetype, or the Magician Tarot card. So many of Baphomet's traits line up with the Mercury Trickster archetype, I am really kind of surprised it's not talked about more often. Starting with the Rod of Hermes, but also including the dual genders, being a master of the elements, the charisma, money, passion, wisdom, just generally overall a kind of eclectic and contradictory personality, but still while providing wisdom and guidance. To get in touch with this role, you can use the symbol of Mercury as well as the Rod of Hermes. You can look at the Magician card for inspiration, including the 4 suits of the deck, the wands, the swords, the cups, and the pentacles. I think overall, Baphomet is a wonderfully real, powerful, friendly deity and energy to work with. Whether you see them as a protector of witches, or as a symbol for the absolute, or as the Mercury messenger type, Baphomet is simply a great energy for any stage of the path. A great energy that the world itself is continuing to discover. If you learned something today and want to learn more about all deities, pantheons, paths, and traditions, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you really liked the video, please hit that like button and drop a comment below as to who you think I should cover next. That really does help get YouTube's attention so that my content is shown to more people. Either way, thanks for watching, friends. I'll see you around.